Hello and welcome everyone, it's your friend Tony Ortiz here, and we're back with another Bloodstained Ritual of the Night tutorial video, one of the many long videos of the playlist, and we are today going to be talking about shards. So, the shards are one of the linchpins of the game. They really absolutely make it all work. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my regular save file here so I can show you a lot of them. And I'm just going to go right into the demon menu so that I can kind of show you what each one where each one drops from. So now, if you ever get lost and you don't remember what any of the shards do, there's plenty of wiki pages out there that have a lot of the stuff. Which you will find with Bloodstained is that there are a few different pages run by different people, and they're organized differently. So if you want to track this information on your own, it's not ever a bad idea to come into your playthrough if you have a 100% complete playthrough and just kind of study on your own and see what each shard does. But we'll talk about each shard individually and what it does, because that's very important to the randomizer and how you're going to go about completing the randomizer. Okay, so first things first, we want to note, you see here Morte here, he has no shard drop. Okay, and then there's another enemy as well that doesn't have it. I'm not going to go through the whole list looking for it, but there's another enemy in the entire list that doesn't have this shard drop. So when you play randomizer, these no drops will also get shuffled into the pool with everything else. Okay, so there's going to just be occasionally enemies that don't have a shard drop. And if you're farming something or you get a kill on something and you're looking, what do I want to go farm next or whatever, it doesn't hurt to come in the menu and double check real quick just to make sure that this guy that you're going to go farm, or one of the 3 or 4 enemies you're going to go farm, doesn't have a shard drop, so that you know not to bother wasting time in killing them. You would think in same type shuffle that this would just make sure that Mort never dropped a shard. It would shuffle the shard empties with the others, but the game and the way that randomizes it doesn't see this, and it just shuffles them to a random enemy, even if you have all purples being shuffled between only enemies that drop purples and stuff. So that is just the way it is. The enemies, I believe, are listed in the order of intended appearance. So some enemies appear in more than one area, of course. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the enemies video. But we're talking about shards right now, so we're just gonna go ahead with that. So Cerulean Splash, this shard's a little bit interesting. It throws like some water out. That's all it does. Flame Cannon shoots a little fireball. Not really anything to write home about. Gale Crawler shoots like a wind blast that travels along the ground. This one's of note because it can use to clip through the Iron Maidens, the little like iron, I mean that's what they're called literally, but like it's like this spiky thing that if you go into it and they close it, it spikes you. There's a couple of them in the game that you have to use the craftwork shard to move. Normally you can use the gale crawler to clip through these. Basically you can use the gale crawler to trigger it and have it close, and then you can move past it without you getting sucked up and spit out and it's staying open. If you want to learn how to do that, I'm not going to have a glitches tutorial or bugs tutorial video in the playlist, but you can definitely check them out there. This is one of the easier ones to do, so if you're interested in kind of breaking the non-existent logic that we have, you can always try that on your own. Summon Ghost, it summons this, any of the summons basically summons this particular enemy, and then it does like a signature attack. This one's pretty useless. Head Flail, this one's pretty good, that little flail thing that you see he has in his hand there. Miriam will swing this out. It's very long range, not too much MP, and it does decent damage. So when you don't have a good melee weapon and you maybe have a lot of mana, or you maybe have a lot of mana restoring items or MP restoring items, whatever you want to call it, mana or mana points, or you have infinite MP because you have the Jeebel's glasses. This is a pretty decent shard. It's a nice thing to have, especially if you want to have some damage in between something that takes a little bit longer to start up. But it does go in the red slot. So okay, Summon Rat, same thing. Not very useful. Bone Toss, you throw a bone up in the air towards your enemy. Castlevania Classic, completely useless. Summon Bat, again, useless. Summon Gurmand, pretty much useless. Heretical Grinder, this one's okay. If you have infinite MP, it's not bad if you don't have anything else. But you basically just throw out a sword that he has in his hand there. It has a bunch of grindy stuff, and it does damage over time. But the MP cost is pretty high. Sword Expertise, this is just a basic bonus damage to that sword weapon class. This is really good. Swords are plentiful. You'll find a lot of them in chests. Especially if you find it early, it's nice to have. There are way better yellow shards, but this is like in probably like a B tier area because swords are pretty good. Fly Trap, this one's pretty useless. Just summons basically this thing. Release Toad, again, same thing, useless. Summon Poop Arma summons this flying pig thing, useless. True Arrow. This one's okay. This summons like a homing arrow. It's not all the best at homing, but it's okay in a pinch. Like most purple shards and most red shards, if you have infinite MP, you can use it to do damage, but it's almost not even worth using if you have better melee. You often want to save your MP for like special attacks with your weapons, or like anything else that is like the lowest MP possible that you can use. So okay, but not really that useful. Caraboss, this is a familiar. All the familiars are the actual familiar themselves, except for the Silver Knight, who actually doesn't appear himself in the game, but his familiar normally jumps out of a lamp or a lantern. She's probably like tied for the second best. She can use those items to help you, but she doesn't really do much else. So it's okay. Like medium out of 6, she's probably like the third best, I'd say, maybe fourth. Summon Simeon, again, pretty useless. You're never going to use this. Welcome Company, this is pretty cool. It summons like the 3 or 4 of these portraits to swirl around, or actually I think it goes up as you upgrade it. It summons these portraits to swirl around you and kind of gives you like a damage shield almost. You can still be hit through it, but whatever comes into that range and gets hit by the hitbox of the portraits will get hit by the portrait. The portrait will break, and then you can resummon them and so on. Not too bad if you find it early. Also useful for taking damage boosts and still maybe like not getting hit as much to go through like tougher enemies if you're looking to get past some stuff. Alchemic Bounty, I don't even remember what this does. I think it like helps you find more crafting material or something, or maybe when you craft something it like has a chance to refund it. You'll never equip this. Acid Jet from Mordog. This one is the best poison shard in the game in the purple slot. So it shoots out an acid projectile. It automatically poisons whatever it hits, and then things will take poison damage over and over, just like you will. There's a lot of enemies in the game that are humanoid. Every humanoid enemy is vulnerable to poison. So you're talking about Dominique, the second to last boss, Jeeble, Zangetsu, and both versions. It's pretty good. Even if you fight tough humanoid enemies, or even a lot of non-humanoid enemies are still weak to this. Status effects are pretty strong, so definitely seek this one out. There's another one that we'll get to called Venom Mist. It's weird. It's more MP per second, and it's slower because it actually physically travels across the screen slower, but it kind of stays on the screen for longer. So it's like if you suck at aiming with your right stick, it might be better for you, but I mean, this is the poison shard to look for. There is a poison shard in the red slot that we'll talk about a little bit later that's a little bit harder to place, but it also doesn't take up the purple shard slot, which is a very valuable slot to use. There's a lot less good reds than good purples, so we'll talk about that when we get to it as well. Petra Ray, you shoot out a little cone, you petrify something. Unfortunately, a lot of enemies in the game can't be petrified or are resistant to it, so this is pretty unfortunately useless because it also doesn't do damage. Like there's a weapon or two in the game that petrify, and they're like not bad because if you hit something that like is still resistant to petrify, you'll still do the weapons damage to them. So I would go that route if you want to get people stoned. You know what I mean? All right. Augment Int. This is one of the best yellow shards in the game. Because the most effective form of damage in the game, as we've said ad nauseum to this point, is spell damage and int boost stats. So there you go. This is one of the best. Dagger expertise. Daggers are pretty bad. Almost no daggers get used. Maybe the poison kukri is the only one, and it's to poison people and then equip another weapon, which, for all the reasons I just mentioned, with poison, that's very good. Summon Boar. This one is interesting. It's not terrible. Neither is the Boar Familiar that we'll get to. You can use them to kind of like, again, boost through stuff or like take weird bounces all off of things. But the thing is that you will collide with this as a familiar, and the summon doesn't really do anything. So like you won't use them, but they are not completely useless. You just have to have like a bunch of practicing with these things that like you can also use to your advantage. It's just whatever. Rigostrima. This one's pretty cool. This one's like the Pillar of Fire, I believe. It's neat, but it costs a lot of MP, doesn't do a ton of damage. Cool if you find it early or if you have infinite mana. Duller Hammerhead, this guy's probably the second worst pet. It's just one of those little heads. He floats around. He does damage when he comes into contact with some stuff, and that's pretty much it. Scythemite, summon insect. So you summon one of these little guys. He flies in this weird kind of like downward hook pattern and then up and then flies off the screen. The cool thing about this summon is actually useful is because this also poisons. So this is one of the 2 shards from the red slot that can poison enemies. So if you find this, you're probably going to equip it a lot because you can just press it once, poison a strong enemy, and then use the poison to beat him down with your melee or whatever else without wasting all your MP. So good, very good. Again, summon Burr. You'll notice Burr and Burr armor share a drop. So when you defeat one of them and get their shard in, like, say, a max chaos, where you're actually like looking to farm stuff that doesn't just drop purples or blues per se, you can absolutely skip one of these. They will mirror across randomizers. So whatever shard randoms on Nabur will also random on the same one will random on Nabur armor. And there are a couple of enemies like this that share a drop pool: Bat and Giant Bat, Rat and Giant Rat, and so on. I think two of the carriage morts also share a drop. Here's Wolfman. He has the Beast Guardian. He puts up the like the hater blocker blocking like that. This is pretty great if you have infinite MP, because it just straight up shields you from basically all damage from whatever direction it's facing. It's a little tricky to get the thing facing left and then to turn right. You don't just turn and then it just doesn't just turn with you. It's just the way that it's programmed, I guess. But if you have infinite MP, it's absolutely pretty interesting to use. There's some cool strategies where when we know we're about to die because something's coming at us and we can't evade it, we'll pause, switch to this, hit the button, block, take the MP loss, and then switch back to whatever other blue we had. Or we'll just use it as, like, we'll try to like perfect parry stuff with it, or parry it like a couple frames before, and then hopefully it comes out on the right side and blocks the damage. So there's some pretty neat stuff you can do with this. It's a pretty good blue. I wouldn't say it's not nowhere near the best, but it's in the top half, maybe even top third. Firearm expertise. All the expertise shards are self-explanatory, like I mentioned with the sword one. Obviously, the ones that are more common weapon types and better weapons are going to be more useful. The firearm one you'll never use. Resist Thunder. There's a bunch of resist shards in the game. These obviously just help you resist that elemental damage a little bit more. There's one for generic magic. There's one for each damage type. There's one for each damage element. You get that. You get it. Dandelion, he's another familiar. And what he does is he gives you like a strength buff sometimes, and then other times he'll attack for you. He's probably like the second best pet, probably, because he attacks and buffs you. But maybe Bloodbringer is a little bit better because the Bloodbringer's damage is a little bit better. It goes Silver Knight, everyone else, and then Boor for the pets. It's kind of like your prerogative on what pet you like second best. But he's here. If you get him, may as well leave him out. Rolsha drops a Sacred Shade. This gives you a Shadow Clone. Sounds really cool in practice. It's absolutely useless in application, unfortunately. It is what it is. This is probably the worst blue shard, maybe the second worst blue shard. Yeah, healing's probably worse because it just doesn't heal you very fast or for very much. But yeah, it's here. It's there. Whatever. Shovel Armor getting summoned. He's a little bit better than the other summons, but really not good. There's only really two good summons. We've already been over them. Summon Insect is one of them. Circular Ripper. This one throws out like this little blade thingy that he has attached to his head, kind of thing right there. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Not that great. You'll probably never use it. Resist Petrification. This is one of the better resists. There's a resist for every status effect as well. So there's Poison, Curse, Petrification, and so on. Not bad to have if you're going to go into a room full of these guys that hit you with the stone, but keep in mind this does not make you immune at base level. It only helps you resist it. Tempest Oculus. This is a lightning attack that hits the whole screen. It will only hit each thing once, but it will try to hit everything on the screen. Really cool when you have infinite MP for just like as you're running through an area, clearing out everything, so you don't have to avoid it and so on. A Resist Strike, again another resist shard. Directed Shield is exactly how it sounds. It's a worse version of the Beast Guardian. You throw it out, you put out a shield, it blocks some stuff, not everything, especially not stuff coming from overhead. Bonymorphosis. This one literally turns you into this enemy, Lily. Lily has a lot of the same kicks and stuff that Miriam has, except you get all of Lily's stats when you transform into Lily. So this can actually be pretty good early game if you find it for getting around stuff. If you don't have good weapons or you don't have any other good damage, it's definitely right bang in the middle of useful blue shards. Assassin has Flying Dagger. This one is, I would say, like B tier. It's pretty good. It throws 3 daggers out. If all 3 daggers hit, it does decent damage. But again, it costs MP. It doesn't have particularly low MP cost, so it's not like better than anyone else's the purple shards. It's just something that's there. Again, it's decent. All purples are semi-decent that are per second cost if you have infinite MP. So it is what it is. You'll probably end up having to use it for some things and in some scenarios. Resist Curses, again, another resist shard. Draconic Rage. This summons this big dragon guy. He takes a big flamey swipe at your enemies. It only damages once. Again, I don't think it can multi-hit. Some of the bosses will use this on you. Not very good. Resist Poison. Actually way more useful than it sounds. It's another resist shard, though. Healing. Arguably the worst blue in the game. I kind of already glossed over it. You just don't heal yourself for enough, and you don't heal yourself at a fast enough rate for the MP that this costs. You're pretty much never going to use this. You're always just going to buy a potion or something instead, or food. Money is power. This one gives you extra damage based on how much money you're carrying around, I think. It's bad. Never equip it, because you want to spend your money on useful things, not get a minor stat boost. Bulleye Blast. This one's very good. It's very expensive in terms of MP cost, but what it does is it puts a little circle on the screen at the end where you're aiming, and you hit it, and it just like does like a cannon burst right there. It's like a bomb or something like that. Normally, this would be like, well, what's the point? It's fine, whatever. The big deal about it is it stuns. So what you can actually do with a lot of bosses, even, and most regular enemies, is you can just stun lock them if you have infinite MP with this thing. You have to get a little closer than you'd like to get to some of the bosses and stuff, but if you have infinite MP, this one's definitely a higher tier, probably B+, I'd say. Resist Light, Optimizer. This one makes you swing your sword faster. Not a bad yellow if you find it early. One of the books also does this. Combined together, they kind of get a little silly if you have like a whip or something that actually like, or a greatsword. That the biggest weakness is the speed that it comes out at. So you can kind of get some cool stuff going if you stack these effects. The problem is even with these effects stacked, you're never going to equal damage of like good purples and good reds with infinite mana. Summon Chair. This one's a special one that we have to note because the chair, you can actually summon it, and then you can sit in it. And what happens with the chair is the chair can let you clip through all sorts of goofy stuff. Again, I'm not going to do a tutorial video on how to clip and like do all the exploits and stuff and bugs in the game, but this one is definitely one you want to keep if you're playing through a randomizer, especially casually on your own, because this is sometimes how we will figure out where the logic screwed up and soft locked you, because we'll use this to like get into other areas. Yeah. Also, special note about the enemy. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the enemy's video, but the enemy will actually, if you sit in the chair before you attack it, it will start bouncing, and you can sometimes use this to like travel upwards a great vertical distance if the chair is in the right area. I believe there's only one area, and it's in the caverns where this actually applies. But in theory, you could do it in one of the rooms in the Livre as well. But you could also just do it you could also get through that room in the Livre by just jumping on the platform. So, yeah. Interesting one there. This one, Deathcry. This one is not great, but it does curse your enemies, and it's I think it's like 100%, or it's a very high percentage to curse when you use it. Not very many enemies are vulnerable to curse, but the Dominique is the second to last boss, and she's also weak to dark, so it's very high percentage to curse her. The only thing that's dangerous about this is when you do it is when you curse her, she goes to half health, she gets all of her extra attacks. And remember, with curse, just like how it works with you, when it wears off, you get all your HP and MP back that was cursed away. So what we might try to do is curse her right up front and then do a bunch of damage, blitzkrieg her down, and then beat her before the curse wears off. The Dominique anyway. So this one's interesting. You can keep it in your back pocket, experiment with its secret tech, but most of the time it's pretty useless. It's just too slow, and like again, since curse can wear off, that often comes up. Liraj has a chaser arrow. This is just a better version of true arrow, and it's not very useful. It's okay. Bloodbringer, this is another pet. He's a sword. He attacks. He taunts your enemies. He's Sword Bro from Symphony of the Night, just stuck into this game. I like him. He's either the second or third best pet, depending on how you like value what you want your pet to do. Upbeat Heat. This thing does some fire damage. That's it. Not very useful. It's unwieldy. I wouldn't use it. Spear Expertise, we've been over. Boor, this is a familiar version of Boor. We already talked about it. Kick Expertise, same thing. Throwing Axe, this is pretty good. You throw this axe forward just like the enemy does. It does a lot of damage. And you can kind of get 3 or 4 out on the screen at a time. So if you got infinite MP, this is actually a really good one. I'd say this is a B+ tier, maybe even A tier red shard. Again, though, red shards, you got to have infinite MP to really make good use of them, outside of the 2 ones that poison, that you only have to cast once or twice. Augment Mind. Mine's not a really great stat. We don't really pay much attention to it. Don't worry about that. Resist Slash, again, depending on how you like your resist shards. Vaisha throws ice spears in both directions, back and forth, and then upwards as well. It's okay. You can hit stuff from across the screen, but again, it's red. It costs a lot of MP. Not super useful. I wouldn't use it all that much. One of these water leaper things, pretty useless. Aqua Stream. This is one of the best shards in the game. When it comes to purple shards, we have like an S tier and we have like an S plus tier. And Aqua Stream is definitely in the S tier. So it is a progression item. It lets you swim through the water. When you use Aqua Stream when you're underwater, it costs 0 MP. And it also will still hit enemies. It propels you in the opposite way of the way you send the water. But you can actually just kind of like wiggle back and forth and send hitboxes away towards your enemies and deal damage to them. It's one of only 2 shards in the game that has a special input manual tech that helps it do more damage. We call it crouch teching. That's because you just start using this thing and you hit crouch, uncrouch, like so you just press your D down and D button, let go, down and D button, let go as fast as you can. Every time you press crouch, you will generate another hitbox of the damaging shard, right? So another like splash of water. And every time you stand back up and you're holding down the button, it will generate another one. So instead of doing just one stream of damage like this, you're doing 2 streams like this because you're crouching up and down over and over. I can even show it to you real quick. This one bears demonstrating. So you can see how it works there. Just a super soaker of water. And now you can see how it's a much more solid stream. That's because I'm throwing out almost double the amount of Aqua Stream hitboxes to do damage. Okay. But that one's really good. If you find that one, not only is it progression, it's really good offense, especially once you get infinite MP. It can also be used, with time stopped as well, to just like completely obliterate the final boss. It's great. Amphibian speed. This one's pretty easy to explain. It just makes you move faster underwater. Cool if you have it before you go into the underwater section. You can equip it, but then immediately unequip it because it does nothing else for you. Detective's Eye. This one's super useful for you new players out there. If you ever find this, you'll want to equip it right away, especially if you're not like studying the map or whatever. And extra, especially if you're playing a Max Chaos version where you need to check all the broken walls and everything. So this will put a little bubble around you, but all it does is reveals like hidden stuff. So if you walk up to a wall that's breakable, you'll see cracks in it, and then you'll know, right? I would recommend personally before you jump into Max Chaos, studying the map quite a bit, getting familiar with where all this stuff is, practicing opening up all these locations in a regular seed first or in the regular game before you then dive in to where a required item might be in there. But this is a great like backup way if you're like just playing at your own pace, you're not doing a speed run, and you're just kind of like casually like, what did I miss? You put this on, you can go figure it out. Lethargy, this thing is useless. I don't even remember what it does. Let's see. Words of Wisdom. This one's really, really good. This is a top tier yellow. The only reason it's not the best is because there is an accessory that gives you infinite MP. What this thing will do is it'll sometimes you'll roll a crit effectively on casting a magic thing, and it'll cost 0. So like if I have this on and I take off my infinite MP thing there and I start doing that Aqua Stream, you'll start to see it start ticking down with the MP. It'll start spending it, and then every now and again you'll just see it stop and then stop, and that's me proccing the Words of Wisdom. So and sometimes if you throw like a big giant red shard spell out there that costs 200, you might just pay 0. So if you find this early, you definitely want to equip it. The only thing is, again, it becomes useless if you find something like Jeebel's Glasses. It does work really good when stacking with other items that increase your MP regen, because then you have not only bonus regen, but you have this chance to spend no MP. So you can really like up your DPS by having a lot of that stuff stacked together and having good offensive magic stuff. Another augment stat there. Tisrafe, this is like a light beam thing. It like summons these 4 light beams and shoots them out. It's unwieldy and it's very hard to hit with. I almost never use this. Resist, resist, resist. Whip expertise, we've been through these. Red Remembrance, I think you do more damage with lower health or something. Again, I would never equip this thing. Toxic Storm, this is the other poison red shard that I was mentioning. This one summons like literally what it says. It summons a tornado of poison at a very specifically set distance in front of your character where you summon it, or if you're jumping that distance but up in the air. This thing's great. It has multiple hits. It will continue to hit the enemy if you put it right on top of them, and it will poison them with each hit. So this is a really good one. If you're trying to poison something from afar, the summon insect is better. But if you can get within like regular striking distance, this one is great. It's one of the better red shards in the game. Definitely a plus tier. Only better, I think. Only think 2 red shards total are better than this, and then this one is right there because it's a little bit more consistent and easier to hit with than Summon Insect. And then like with these two, then you've got like the axe, throw spear, shuriken, like all of that's kind of like tied like in the A tier right below that. Okay, resist, flamethrower. This one's really good. Again, it costs a lot of MP, but it is spammable, so you can just smash on the button and you'll just throw as many fire lava thingies out that you can until you run out of MP, or if you have infinite, you'll never stop, which is amazing. It's one of the few shards that you can use to just absolutely obliterate the 2M bosses if you have infinite MP, so definitely keep your eye out for this one and hang on to it. Throw spear. This is one of the better reds. Again, I just said it's A tier. Throws 3 spears out. All 3 of them have a hitbox. All 3 of them can hit an enemy, and it goes almost the whole screen. And the damage is very high. It costs a lot of MP, but again, if you have infinite, you can just jump and spam this and just throw spears nonstop. It's pretty good. Then we have Summon Hellhound. This is one of the top 2 red shards. This thing is a lot of MP. It costs 200, but if you have infinite, that costs 0. And this summons a big one of these Hellhound guys. He jumps at the screen through the background, and as you upgrade it, it'll get bigger, and it does a ton of damage. The most damage that anything does in a single hit in the entire game. So this thing, you'll see a lot of us be spamming this if we have infinite MP, if we find it. It's really good. Hang on to this one for sure. Upgrade it if you get it. Augment Luck. This is one of the other best yellows. Because luck helps you crit more, and it also helps you get better drop rates. So up there with Augment Int and Words of Wisdom, it's in the top tier of yellow. So if you see this one, definitely hang on to that. Pickpocket, when you hit some stuff, it'll give you a chance to steal an item. Thing is, you can just kill the enemy and have them drop items anyway. So I would never equip this. Petra Breath, this is basically the same thing as that Petra Ray. It's just a bigger cone. That's it. That's all it does. Augment Strength. Tornado Slicer, this one, you will like hold a tornado out from your hand in a direction. The thing is, it doesn't go very far at base level, but it does okay damage. It's another purple that it's per second, so it's feasible to do a lot of damage. Basically drain your MP and then switch to melee after that. Or if you have infinite MP, you can do some decent damage with it if you have nothing else. Shuriken. This one is basically the same as Throw Spear, except you're throwing shurikens. You only throw 2 shurikens base, but they can stick to the enemy and sometimes do extra damage. It's pretty wonky. That doesn't usually work. I've only seen it happen a few times, but they have a little bit more of an arc and they come out a little bit faster, but the hitbox are a little bit smaller. So shuriken and Throw Spear are kind of like almost the same. They're both really good. Summon Bat. Again, this is the same as the Giant Bat, the Giant Cannon, and the Giant Toad and the Giant Moko. They all have the shared drop of their smaller counterparts. Giant Mort, again, has a shared drop of his Mort there. So this will get shuffled to another enemy in your randomizers. Giant Burr, same thing. Familiar Burr. Marvis. Drain. So this will, if you hit your enemy, it'll drain some HP from them and give it to you. Doesn't do enough. Almost never worth equipping. Cherry Burr, shared with the Chariot. What was he called? That's shared with the Carriage Mort is the same. So that's shared there. Okay, and Silver Wolfman, Pharaoh Claws. This does like a double claw swipe. It's not that good. It's in the bottom half of the blues. It's just there as an extra attack. I would never really use that. Void Ray. This one, I'll show you. This thing is insane. This is one of the 2 best offensive shards in the game. The reason it's so good, it hits the whole screen. It's a beam. It has a very low per second MP cost. Well, I guess that's not the right way to say it. It's got the same per second MP cost as a lot of other beams, or maybe even a little bit more. But that you can hold it down for a few frames, as I explained in some of the previous tutorials, and only pay that percentage of the MP cost is very good. And what makes it better than a lot of the other beams is that the time in which you can hit the enemy again is very low. So if you're hitting an enemy with a beam like this and it's just staying on them, the tick rate, or how many times they'll get hit, per second is much higher than in, like, say, the Tis Resign that we'll talk about in just a minute. So that's what makes it better. It is Dark Element, so that keep that in mind. Some things will be resistant to it, but some things will be weak to it as well. But it's super, super, super good. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Again, one of the two best offensive shards in the game. We've got a resist here. Then we have accelerator. This is the best blue shard in the game. This thing makes you the flash whenever you see me running around with that giant blue bubble around me and I'm super fast. That's what this is. Normally you get it through beating this like little platforming puzzle area where there's a bunch of lethal traps and spikes and stuff. And you race this guy, and if you beat him, you get it 100% drop. But it gets shuffled with all the rest of the blues in STS, and it gets shuffled into the entire pool with Max Chaos. So you'll often see a lot of us. We will go for the 1 out of 9 or 2 out of 9. We'll farm some blues here and there. If you see us farming a blue shard, especially in STS, the reason we're farming the blue shard is because we're hoping it drops Accelerator. Best shard in the game for speedrunning, bar none. Okay, resist dies. Okay, yeah. Summon Tracer. It summons this little eyeball guy, basically useless. Axe Strike. This one, unlike the throwing axe, summons a big giant axe that comes out and just smashes in front of you. Doesn't sound as good as throwing axe, but it actually is. It's pretty much on par because it does way more damage. So if you have infinite MP, you can just get next to something and spam this and summon like 5 or 6 axes and just chop them down. Chop that tree down. Pretty good. Well, to you, this you'll see these guys throw these darkness fireballs throughout the game. It's the same thing. You throw a darkness Hadouken. Wherever it lands, if it's on the screen, the darkness will stay there and continue to tick and do damage if the enemy is touching it. The same works in reverse to you though. If you see one of these types of enemies, there's 3 or 4 demons. If they throw this out and it hits the ground, you see this little dark thing standing there. Don't touch it. It will damage you. This is very expensive, but it does hit pretty hard. It's pretty useful against stuff that's weak to dark. But again, to use it, since it's only a single fireball, it's not a per second kind of thing like a beam. There's no way to reduce the MP cost, so you're really going to want to have infinite MP or like at least a lot of MP healing items to be able to use this in the final fight. Yeah. So summon 8-bit ghost. Again, another summon, not too great. Summon 8-bit zombie, same thing, not too great. 8-bit fireball. This shoots a little 8-bit fireball. It's pretty. It doesn't even go the whole screen. It's not good. But it does do a lot of damage. So if you find it early and like you also find glasses early and you have a lot of MP, you can use this until you find something better. It's fine. And then 8-bit flame, this optional super boss this is one of his attacks. He summons a bunch of 8-bit pillars of flame. This is really good again, but only if you have infinite MP. And it doesn't multi-hit, so it doesn't really have any advantage over like summon Hellhound, like we were talking about before with good reds. And also, you don't control precisely how the flames go up and down, so sometimes you'll just miss randomly. But it's all right. You can experiment with it. It's decent. Ruinous Rude, the Ravishing Shard. This thing throws out a whirling blade, and then it goes out a specific distance, spins for a little bit, and then comes back to you, and then fades off. So this actually can get a lot of hits in, especially if enemies have bigger hitboxes, and as you upgrade it, it gets bigger and stuff. So this one's interesting. I'd say it's right in the middle, probably B tier, B minus tier. You can use it in conjunction with invert for some cool strategies. A few of these shards that throw stuff out on the screen and then the stuff lingers out on the screen for a while, you can use invert to kind of like keep them out of the screen, keep their hitbox touching the enemy and ticking for more damage. But yeah, this one's definitely one to experiment with. Don't get hit by it when you fight this guy because it's going to hurt you. Chisel Barrage, this is one of the better shards in the game. I'd say the S minus tier. This is the only other shard besides Aqua Stream that's crouch techable. So you'll just throw these chisels out like you see in his hand. What's great about these chisels is they do a lot of damage, but also they do a micro stun. So kind of like when I was talking about Bolad Blast, that thing does like a stun. If you chain hit stuff with these chisels, they will just be like half speed because they'll be getting mini stunned every time they get hit. So this is definitely a really, really good one. You'll want to hang on to this, practice with this one, get used to using this one a lot. Jackpot. This thing summons a jackpot machine and doesn't do much else. Not good. I wouldn't use it. Fashion Tentacle. Summon some tentacles and do nothing. Grab work. So this guy is a stained glass like hand thing. His shard is a progression shard mechanic. So what it does is it grabs something and you can actually move with it while you're holding it down. It can move the pillar out of the way for a little chariot guy to take you over the gap in Garden of Silence. And you can also move the Iron Maidens out of the way. It's how you get into Oriental Sorcery Lab the correct way. There are other ways in, but those are clips. So the intended manner is to use this shard or Gale Crawler to get rid of the Iron Maiden in your way and continue Inferno Breath. This is very similar to like the shards where you just hold it out and it does damage, but it doesn't have any kind of crouch tech, and you know it's one of the weaker ones, but it is still better than a lot of the other purples. So if you get this from normally Valak will have this, it's okay. You can use it. You'll see us use it sometimes until we get something better. Andre Alpha says double jump. I kind of went through what all the white shards did in the movement tutorial, so if you want more information about that, go ahead and check that out. Hammer Knuckle, this one kind of very similar to a lot of the other, you know, holdout type shards like this one and the Heretical Grinder and all that. You hold it out, it does damage. It's not that good, doesn't have great range. Reflector Ray. This one I didn't really cover in the movement tutorial, but it can be used to move around. So normally the Reflector Ray shard is used to get through these small little tiny gaps, but you can use it to actually travel vertically. If I don't get hit by this guy. But you can use it to travel vertically. And you can jump out of it if your timing is really good. If you have uncapped frame rate, the timing window is much bigger. But you can use it to get up places where you shouldn't normally be able to go. Typically, it's going to go through these little smaller gaps. That's what it's really for. Or you can bounce it off of a mirror if the room has a mirror in it. And then, you know, maybe get up a side of the room or whatever like that. It also has applications in clipping, like I was mentioning before. But this one, typically, it's going to be a progression item more than anything else. Doesn't have any offensive value, and it'll get you some extra item checks and stuff. You know, outside of letting you into those other areas where you know you couldn't get in without either Dimension Shift or Reflector Ray. Okay, let's head back down here. Bloodless. She has Bloodsteel, so normally this shard is a progression shard in the main game. If you use this against an enemy that has blood and it's within range, you'll steal their blood and heal yourself. It's really not that good, but it does open up one little area. So normally in the progression path of the game, they won't give you any vertical movement. Your only option will be to go to fight her. You'll fight her, she'll drop this. You'll go to an area in the game where there's a blood fountain. You'll use this in range of the blood fountain. It'll drain the blood, and then you can go down into the caverns area. That's pretty much what it is. It's mostly a gimmick. So this one here, Shadow Tracer. This one does something else similar to Sacred Shade. Like it makes you a shadow clone of you. One of them makes a shadow clone of you, and one of them does something else. So like makes a shadow of you that does something that's not as good. They're both bad. Don't ever use them. They're just not good. Invert, we've covered this in the movement tutorial. Gold Bullet, this is a beam. Oh, you know what? Let me get in the save room so we have less music to contend with. Gold Bullet, this is a beam, but it costs money to use. So it's like a bullet shot, like a gun, but it costs gold, and typically you're either not going to have gold because you spent it buying good stuff, or you know you won't have enough to like actually fully fund this, or you'll find something better. It's okay, it's fine, you know, whatever. And then I'm going to talk about the last two shards a little bit more in detail. Standstill. This one you won't find probably in your first playthrough before you beat the game, and that's because it drops off OD himself. You'll find OD throughout the game, but he'll be a friendly you know, NPC to help you out. He's the guy who lends you books, and he has some progression you know, stuff. But you can actually fight him as an optional super boss, and you do this by, I believe, having the 95% discovered percentage over there, and for shards bound, I can't remember if it's 95 or it's you have to find literally every other shard. But you can look that up and confirm that on your own if you really want to know. And you will fight him in his specific room in the very last area. And if you defeat him, this is the shard that he drops. What this does is it drains a lot of MP really fast, maybe the highest in the game. But it stops time, so everything stops moving. Now, not everything is vulnerable to this. So a lot of bosses are not vulnerable to this, but the very last boss, Bale, is vulnerable to this. And I think it's because Dominique possesses each head, so they're like a background item, and they're not like an actual boss that's moving around, which is interesting. So I don't know. For whatever reason, it works. If you have this and infinite MP on the last boss, you get a free win. All you have to do is beat Dom. You get into this stage, you let Dom possess one of her Bale's heads, you throw this out, you hold it, you win. Just attack with your melee weapon, spam whatever other, you know, damage shards you have. Eventually you'll defeat the enemy. Normally when you have an enemy on screen, it has to have a dying animation. So like if you use this out in the just random world and you kill an enemy, usually you have to let it go for a couple frames to let the enemy start to die. Then you'll get a shard drop and its item drops and all that. Um, but the last boss, for whatever reason, all it checks is if it has 0 HP. And if it has 0 HP, it immediately ends the game and you win. So, you don't have to let it go in that scenario. One thing you want to be super careful about when using this, though, is that there is a hard lock glitch that happens with it. If you press this button on or around the same frame as you are receiving a shard dropping from an enemy and like zipping to you and touching your character's sprite, you will lock up your game and you will not be able to do anything. And there's no way around it. You will just have to reset. So just be very careful. If you're using this in the regular overworld or whatever, and you see something drop a shard, let go of the button and do not touch it again until that shard taps you and you see the little nameplate that says you got the shard, and then you can continue to use it. So a couple notes there on that one. And finally, Dimension Shift. This is the most important purple shard in the game. This is what lets you beat the game. You cannot beat the game without this thing unless you set it to only kill Jeeble as your goal. And that's because the very last boss is hidden behind these solid walls of ice. And Dimension Shift, what it does is it teleports you. So we'll just go ahead and demonstrate it. You aim, and then you teleport there. You phase out of existence, and back in. So we didn't really talk about this in the movement tutorial because it doesn't really have any practical applications of like how to move faster. It can move you vertically. It doesn't really work on 90-degree angles all that well. Sometimes it does, but in the air it doesn't. You can see like it kind of disappears a little bit. You have to fiddle with it. But it's the signature shard of the game because you need it to beat the game. And, you just have to use it. Get you through the small little gaps as well that Reflector Ray would. So if you find this before you find Reflector Ray, you can just use this instead. And one small note about some of these shards that have, like where they pause the screen or they phase Miriam out like this and invert. During the first few startup frames of these shards, you are invincible. And it's something you can upgrade, so keep that in mind as well. Now that we've talked about every shard, we're going to talk about how you upgrade the shards. So the first thing you can do to upgrade your shards is to just find more copies of it. You'll see that in the grade, how many copies of the shard you have. That's how you upgrade them. That's one way you upgrade them. The other way to upgrade them is to use consumables and upgrade them. So if I have this fairy wing here, I can spend a fairy wing, I can increase the rank, and then the rank increase will tell me what happens in the bottom right corner here. Invincibility at moment of second jump. So when I double jump, I'm actually invincible in the first few startup frames of that second jump. And so on. Also, this will be a good place to mention the last few shards in the game that we didn't cover. They are craftable. So you have to have this Vashia shard, and then the other shard. This gets randomized in Randomizer. And we'll just talk about these real quick as well, since we've covered how to upgrade shards. Vashia, this is the other really, really good red shard that's in the game. It summons a line of ice and it drops. It's expensive, but if you have infinite MP, you can just spam it. And what you can do as well is you can start spamming this. And then you can invert, and the ice will actually turn around and fall back down. And you can keep it falling through an enemy over and over and over. And it's an interesting strategy to use on bosses. Tep Selrenda, this one is the... Oh, wait. I might have had it wrong. This is the Pillar of Lightning? Oh, no, this is the surrounding... strike your surroundings, the Merciless Barrage. Okay, yeah. So if you go back to Tep's Octus, the one that I said before, that one is a Pillar of Lightning that just happens in one place. This one is the one that bounces around the screen and hits everybody. And you can see Tep's Octus there is what you cracked it with. So yeah, small correction. I don't want to re-record the whole thing. Venom Mist, we already kind of spoke about that when I talked about Acid Jet. Here it is. Rigodorine, this is a upgrade from Rigostorama. Instead of the pillar, you get this big giant fireball that sticks around on screen. Tisrosian, this is a beam weapon. It's a holy version of like Void Ray, but unfortunately, it just doesn't tick as quickly. So basically, like the time you can hit an enemy again with it is much longer. So you see it used less if we have both. But it's still really, really good. It's still like a A tier, maybe S minus tier purple. High jump we spoke about in the movement tutorial. Faltabe, this is the other shard that's tied for the best in the game. This bad boy, basically, same thing as Void Ray, but it's this little bubble instead. The thing is this thing is so much more spammable than anything else in the entire game that you don't even need infinite MP. Like, I can take off my Jeebles glasses here and watch my MP. It's not even going down, really. Like, I'm just regenning it. And every single time I tap an enemy with this, it gets hit. So it is kind of disgusting, actually. So you can imagine if you're standing next to a boss and every single one of these is doing, 80 to 160 damage or whatever it's doing. It's pretty great. Alright, and then let's just go through the last few crafts here. Regenerate. It regenerates your health passively over time. Not really that good. Again, I would just buy healing. Resist we've been through. Expertise we've been through. Augment gold. You get more gold. And that's it. Those are all the shards in the entire game. So hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial video. This one was a bit longer because there's so many shards. But I'm going to be back in the next one covering more info. And as always, as I've been mentioning in all the end of these videos, make sure that even if you've gotten your fill for the tutorial content, you check out the last video in this playlist. If you're watching in 2025, there is an announcement there. And you'll definitely want to check it out if you're interested in Bloodstained. So thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you in the next one.